All right, the newsbreak that is just coming in, getting the first statement that has come in from the BBC director who's apologized again for the loss of BBC sports programming over the weekend, where he says, and I quote, "Everyone recognizes this has been a difficult period for staff, contributors, presenters, and most importantly, our audiences. I apologize for this." Davie also recognizes the potential confusion caused by the grey areas of BBC's social media guidance that was introduced in 2020, adding he wants to get matters resolved and our sport content back on air. He goes on to emphasize how impartiality is important to the BBC and the public as a whole, noting the corporation has a commitment to impartiality in its charter and a commitment to freedom of expression as well. So that's, of course, the big newsbreak coming in. BBC announcing a review panel as well. A statement that has been released by the BBC Director General, who has apologized for what he says loss of BBC sports programming over the weekend. He says, and I quote once again, "Everyone recognizes this has been a difficult period for staff, contributors, presenters, and most importantly, our audiences. I apologize for this." He's even recognized what he says, potential confusion caused by the grey areas of BBC's social media guidance. Let's go across to our senior executive editor joining us, Abhishek. If you can take us to the statement that has been released, and what does this really mean with BBC announcing a review panel in the coming days?
Well, Samiksha, this is essentially the BBC getting a whack and coming to its senses. And apology is writ large in this statement, where they are admitting, the Director General of the BBC, Davie, admitting that there are some grey areas in the social media guidelines that they are introduced in 2020, and that those need to be sorted out at the earliest. And obviously, pending whatever needs to be done to review the guidelines, the BBC really did not want its sport content, sports coverage to suffer. Remember, in the backdrop of Gary Lineker being asked to step back, there was an absolute rebellion with many of other staffers and contributors and pundits really pulling out of BBC content, and that really, I believe, had consequences in terms of programming suffering and getting compromised. And I think that has really led to the BBC leadership, I beg your pardon, come to its senses, and that's why this statement coming in, where, to quote, it says impartiality is important to the BBC. It is also important to the public. The BBC has commitment to impartiality in its charter, so it goes on to repeat what it does, and then says, accordingly, we are announcing a review led by an independent expert reporting to the BBC on its existing social media guidance, with a particular focus on how it applies to freelancers outside news and current affairs. Remember, this is a significant step down by the BBC after asking Lineker to step back. And Lineker was asked to step back because, according to BBC social media guidelines, he could not make a comment on the government, which Lineker had. Of course, there is a statement coming in from Lineker as well, where he said, "I am glad that we have found a way forward. I support this review and look forward to getting back on air." So I think on the face of it, it seems it's back to normal insofar as BBC sports programming is concerned, but a big lesson, I believe, for the leadership at BBC for doing away with the double standard and the two yardsticks that they were following, one for the United Kingdom, another for the rest of the world.
Well, absolutely, Abhishek. Thank you for putting it into context for us. So the BBC doublespeak also stands exposed at this point after the statement that has come in from the BBC Director General, announcing, in fact, making it clear and accepting that there have been grey areas in social media guidelines, and saying, even apologizing for what has happened over the last few days, especially after we saw how the commentator was, the action that was initiated against the presenter.